On the 6th of October, the Egyptian president says victory is not granted, but seized. Egypt hosts a new round of consultations aimed at advancing the ceasefire in Gaza. And the Human Rights Watch condemns Trump's plan. You're watching Q News at 4 with me, Henny. And in the news today, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi marked October 6th as a proud historic day, honoring the 1973 victory and the army's enduring duty to defend Egypt. Marking October 6th was a proud, historic day. Sisi praised Egypt's armed forces and assured Egyptians of their unwavering commitment to defend the country. He paid tribute to late President Anwar al-Sadat for courageous leadership towards peace. He said lasting Middle East peace requires a Palestinian state grounded in international legitimacy and justice. He called for a Gaza ceasefire, the return of detainees, reconstruction, and a political process to statehood. He warned peace imposed by force breeds resentment, while fair peace enables genuine normalization and coexistence. Egypt's president reaffirms the armed forces' unwavering commitment to defend the nation and protect its borders.
شعب مصر العظيم وفي ختام كلمتي أطمئنكم أن جيش مصر قائم على رسالته في حماية بلدي والحفاظ على حدودها ولا يهاب التحديات. جيش وطني من صلب هذا الشعب العظيم وأبناؤه يحملون أرواحهم على أكفهم ويقفون كالسد المنيع أمام كل الصعاب والتهديدات.
And now we move on to the latest developments in Gaza. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has emphasized that true peace in the Middle East hinges on establishing an independent Palestinian state in line with international legitimacy and restoring the rights of its people. Marking the 52nd anniversary of the October war victories, President al-Sisi highlighted that a ceasefire, the return of detainees, Gaza's reconstruction and a peaceful political process towards a Palestinian statehood are essential steps towards lasting peace and stability in the region. Egypt is hosting a new round of consultations aimed at advancing a ceasefire in Gaza and activating the detainee exchange process following U.S. President Donald Trump's peace proposal. The meetings will focus on field arrangements in Gaza to prepare for the implementation of the detainee swap agreement. Meanwhile, Hamas has agreed to release all living Israeli detainees and bodies held in Gaza under the terms outlined in the U.S. proposal, calling for suitable field conditions to enable the exchange and achieve a war ceasefire and full Israeli withdrawal. An informed official on the Gaza negotiations told Reuters that today's negotiations are unlikely to be swift and are expected to last several days. The goal, he said, is to reach a comprehensive agreement detailing all aspects, before any ceasefire implementation begins. The informed official noted that key challenges include defining the transfer of Gaza's administration from Hamas, forming an international stabilization force, and agreeing on the timetable and mechanisms for Israeli troop withdrawal. Mediators, he added, face a long list of contentious issues requiring consensus from both Israel and Hamas before a final deal can be achieved. And for more on this, we now move to Salma Al-Fay in our newsroom. Salma.
Thank you, Hani. And for further analysis, we are joined from Cairo by the international relations expert, Mr. Mohammed Osman. Welcome, sir, to Qnews. Let me start off by asking you, sir, in what ways do you think President Sisi's emphasis on the Palestinian statehood shape Egypt's diplomatic approach to the current talks, do you think?
Thank you for having me, Salma. It seems today that President Sisi, of course, in his address on the occasion of the Egyptian victory on the 6th of October, when he addressed the issue of Gaza and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, he wanted to emphasize that this is not a humanitarian issue or solely a humanitarian issue, and that the conflict in Gaza is not just the conflict in Gaza, but it is rather the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, or the Palestinian cause, rather, to be more specific. So it seems that President al-Sisi was hinting and clearly stating even that in order for us to have a conclusive solution to this ongoing conflict that has been ongoing for about 76 years now, the conclusive and definitive end can be achieved by the two-state solution and the establishment of the Palestinian state on the borders of June 4th, 1967. No, there is no other alternative to such a solution, Salma. So that's why I think that President al-Sisi emphasized the idea of Palestinian statehood, that he was basically hinting that we should never lose the main focus of the political addressing of the Palestinian issue, that it should never only be dealt with as temporary solutions to resolve ongoing conflicts on a temporary manner. He rather said that we need a definitive solution, and a definitive solution requires a peace process that will lead to the two-state solution on the borders of 1967.
Yes, and Mr. Osman, how do you think Egypt's current mediation efforts build on its long-standing role as a regional peace broker?
Egypt's mediation is instrumental and central to the ongoing efforts to end the war. Without them, this would never have been achieved. Egypt has played a very prominent role in the humanitarian support of the Gaza Strip in order to prevent the mass exodus of the Palestinians and to ensure that the Palestinians can stay in their land. Egypt also took a very historical stand, refusing or rejecting any attempt to facilitate or allow the forced displacement of Palestinians. And of course, this in itself prevented the liquidation of the Palestinian cause effectively. Also, Egypt has played a very prominent role in the mediation throughout the negotiations over the past 2 years between the Palestinian factions and Israel, along with Qatar and the United States. So Egypt has always supported its mediating role, and it's keen to continue it. And now it even carries great symbolism that this decisive phase of the negotiations that might lead to the implementation of the first phase of the agreement is taking place in Egypt, because Egypt is the best equipped mediator in this regard.
Okay, Mr. Osman, still speaking about Egypt's role, how can you explain a little bit more about Egypt's involvement to the success of the detainee exchange and the ceasefire implementation?
The current negotiations ongoing in Egypt mainly focus on the detainee exchange and the exchange of Palestinian prisoners in exchange for Israeli hostages. And I think that the main features of the agreement have been agreed upon. Now it remains, in the Trump plan, has been accepted by both Hamas and Israel. Now the details and the technical details remain to be worked out. And I think that this is what Egypt is facilitating now. Most of, or all of the detainee exchanges that have taken place before, most of them were facilitated by Egypt. and the Egyptian government did play, the Egyptian general intelligence did play a prominent role in executing them. Therefore, Egypt is now playing a huge role in this, and also this will require reaching an agreement or the arrangements for a ceasefire. Israel so far is refusing flatly to adhere to a full ceasefire in Gaza, and this, of course, is complicating matters. I hope that in today's negotiations, they can reach some sort of understanding to reach a calm in the Gaza Strip.
And what specific advantage do you think Egypt has in facilitating maybe dialogue between Israel, Hamas, and international partners?
I think that Egypt has all the leverage. Egypt enjoys the trust of all sides. It enjoys the trust of the Palestinian side. The Israelis accept Egypt as a mediator. They also enjoy the trust and the confidence of the United States and the international community. So therefore, Egypt has all the leverage it needs to push forward the peace plan that Trump has proposed. Of course, this plan is susceptible to change and should be reviewed in many of its aspects. This is something that is being expressed by the Palestinians and even by the Arab actors, including Egypt, who said that this plan is not a definitive plan and that it needs to be revised in some of its provisions. So Egypt is playing a role in that. However, the success of Egyptian efforts will never materialize without a genuine will on both sides. And we for sure, Salma, we do know that the Israelis are being forced into these negotiations by the United States, and they do not have the genuine will to positively engage with it. So therefore, we require more U.S. pressure in order for this mediation process and the negotiation process to succeed.
And what do you think, sir, in your opinion, are the long-term, what's the long-term basically vision does Egypt have, maybe, in your opinion, for maintaining stability in Gaza after the ceasefire and withdrawal phases are completed?
Egypt has been very clear that the idea of the post-governance and post-war governance in Gaza and the issue also of the disarmament of the armed factions has to be achieved through a Palestinian dialogue, an internal dialogue. And also Egypt has stressed that the authority in Gaza has to be turned over to a Palestinian entity, a Palestinian committee, which Egypt proposed previously in its previous plan, and also which will have a reference to the legitimate legal reference to the Palestinian Authority. And this is to ensure that the Gaza Strip will stay administered by the Palestinians and not by any other entity. If there is to be any international oversight, it should never supersede or come on the expense of the idea of Palestinian governance. So maybe Egypt will propose a vision in cooperation with the Palestinians and the Americans as well that will be more conducive to all of these proposals.
And that was Mr. Mohammed Osman from Cairo, the international relations expert. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Q News today. And now we go back to Hani Saif in our studio. Hani.
Thank you, Selma. Iran's foreign ministry has expressed support for any ceasefire proposal made by Palestinian groups that guarantees an end to what it calls the genocide in Gaza. The ministry emphasized the need for the withdrawal of Israeli forces, respect for Palestinian self-determination, and the delivery of humanitarian aid and reconstruction. It also called on international bodies to hold accountable those responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Iran expressed readiness to assist in humanitarian relief efforts. German Foreign Minister Johann Weidefeld has visited Kuwait to rally support for the first phase of a Gaza peace plan. Calling it the most promising proposal, he urged swift action to secure a ceasefire, release detainees and deliver aid. Weidefeld stressed Germany's backing for a two-state solution and dismissed suggestions that Berlin's role was irrelevant, saying he extended his stay in the region at the request of partners. He met with the Kuwaiti Foreign Minister Abdullah al-Yahya for further talks on regional coordination. Malaysia and Pakistan have expressed cautious support for U.S. President Donald Trump's 20-point peace initiative for Gaza. Speaking at a joint statement, the Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim said Malaysia and Pakistan view the peace initiative positively. though Malaysia has some concerns. He emphasized that there is broad international agreement on the need to cease hostilities and stop the bombings in Gaza. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, during his working visit to Malaysia, highlighted the importance of strengthening bilateral ties and announced plans for joint ventures and increased cooperation in trade, investment and defense. The death toll in the Gaza Strip has reached 67,160, with women and children comprising the majority of casualties. At least 169,679 people have also been injured. In the past 24 hours, 21 bodies and 96 injured individuals were admitted to Gaza hospitals. 2 Palestinians were killed and over 19 injured while seeking humanitarian aid, raising the total aid-related deaths to 2,610. Since the ceasefire was broken in March 2025, 13,568 Palestinians have been killed and 57,638 injured. Israel has reported that at least 1,152 Israeli soldiers have died since the start of the war on Gaza in October 2023. Nearly 42% of the soldiers were under 21 years of age. The casualties include members of the military, police, Shin Bet and Special Operations Forces, with the count covering those killed during the October 7th incident. The Human Rights Watch has condemned President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, stating it fails to address urgent humanitarian rights concerns or ensure accountability for serious crimes committed during Israel's conflicts with the Palestinians. The HRW called on governments to impose arms embargoes, targeted sanctions and back the International Criminal Court to prevent ongoing violations. The HRW's Israel and Palestine Director, Omar Shakir, highlighted the persistent atrocities since October 2023 and urged immediate international action rather than waiting for political plans to take effect. The group also criticized Israel's attacks in Gaza as a disregard for international law. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said the recent snapback sanctions have complicated diplomacy and made cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog invalid. He stressed that diplomacy remains the only way to resolve the nuclear issue, rejecting nuclear weapons ambitions. Araghchi emphasized that the Cairo agreement is no longer a valid basis for Iran's cooperation with the agency. The snapback was triggered by Britain, France and Germany, reinstating UN sanctions after the Security Council failed to extend relief. The Kremlin has dismissed Ukrainian claims that China is supplying satellite intelligence to aid Russian missile strikes on Ukraine. Responding to allegations made by a Ukrainian intelligence official, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia has its own resources. Ukraine's foreign intelligence agency has alleged China shared data on targets, including foreign invested sites. Beijing has not commented. Russian forces have launched a large-scale overnight strike on Ukraine's military, industrial and energy infrastructure. The attack involved combat drones and long-range precision weapons, including hypersonic Kinzhal missiles. Russian troops targeted rail transport for military equipment, fuel supply centers, drone and rocket launch sites, and Ukrainian and foreign mercenary positions in 137 locations. Russia also claimed control of the settlement of Kuzminovka in Donetsk. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Air Force reported intercepting 478 aerial targets, including 439 drones and several cruise missiles, during the combined attack starting Saturday evening. The Kremlin has welcomed comments by U.S. President Donald Trump, who said President Putin's proposal to extend nuclear arms limits under the New START treaty sounds like a good idea. Putin last month offered to voluntarily uphold the treaty's limits on deployed strategic nuclear weapons for one more year, ahead of its February 2026 expiration. Russia and the U.S. together hold around 87% of the world's nuclear weapons, with over 5,000 warheads each. France's new Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, and his government resigned just hours after the cabinet lineup was announced, making it the shortest-lived government in modern French history. Lecornu, who served only 27 days as a Prime Minister, blamed the collapse on the political party's failure to compromise. It would take very little for us to succeed, he said, urging politicians to put the country before party interests. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has criticized President Donald Trump's order to deploy 400 Texas National Guard members to Illinois, Oregon, and other U.S. locations. Pritzker urged Texas Governor Greg Abbott to withdraw support and refuse coordination with the deployment. National Guard troops typically answer to state governors unless federalized. Trump has sent troops to several cities despite opposition from local leaders. At least 14 children have died in Madhya Pradesh, India, after consuming Coldreef cough syrup found to contain toxic levels of diethylene glycol. The syrup, manufactured by Srisan Pharma in Tamil Nadu, exceeded safe limits according to lab tests. Authorities have named the prescribing doctor and the manufacturer as prime suspects and sealed a warehouse storing the drug. Protests erupted across India, with opposition parties demanding accountability amid concerns over drug safety, following previous international incidents linked to Indian-made cough syrups. Egypt's Dr. Khaled Al-Anani, the former Tourism and Antiquities Minister, competes for the UNESCO Director General from 2025 to 2029 against Congo's Firmin Edouard Matoko. Al-Anani, an Egyptologist with a PhD from France, aims to bring Egypt and the Arab African region to the agency's top post, following previous Egyptian bids. If successful, he will become the first Egyptian to hold the position, following in the footsteps of UNESCO's current leader, Audrey Azoulay, who has served since 2017. Mary Brunko, Fred Ramsdell and Shimon Sakaguchi have been awarded the 2025 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for the groundbreaking work on peripheral immune tolerance. Their discoveries have paved the way for new treatments in cancer and autoimmune diseases, the committee said. Brunko and Ramsdell are based in the US, while Sakaguchi works in Japan. The trio will share the 11 million Swedish crown, amounting to $1.2 million prize, along with a gold medal to be presented by the King of Sweden. The Nobel Prizes have honored major achievements in science, literature and peace since 1901.
Prize in Physiology or Medicine jointly to Mary Brunko, Fred Ramsdell and Shimon Sakaguchi for their discoveries concerning
Thousands gathered in Hong Kong's Tai Hang neighborhood to witness the century-old Fire Dragon Dance, a vibrant tradition marking the Mid-Autumn Festival. Over 300 performers carried a 67-meter-long dragon adorned with tens of thousands of burning incense sticks through the narrow streets, creating a spectacular fiery display. The ritual, originating more than 140 years ago to ward off plague, includes sharing half-burned incense sticks with spectators for good luck and health. Celebration spans 3 nights, concluding Tuesday, October 7th. Hundreds of hot air balloons soared over Albuquerque, marking the 53rd annual International Balloon Fiesta. Since its start in 1972, the event has grown into the world's largest balloon festival. The morning's mass ascension featured hundreds of balloons filling the sky, with over 500 expected throughout the 9-day celebration. And on this sky-high note, we come to the end of today's bulletin, but here's a reminder of today's main stories. On the 6th of October, the Egyptian president says victory is not granted, but seized. Egypt hosts a new round of consultations aimed at advancing the ceasefire in Gaza. And the Human Rights Watch condemns Trump's plan. These are all the news we have for now, but please don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at QNewsEGY to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more coming up here on Qnews.